Yesterday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law that will allow, effective July 1st of this year, permitless concealed carry here in the state of Florida. You do not have to have a permit to have a hidden gun on your person at any time now in the state of Florida, effective July 1st. You do not have to have any training to carry a concealed weapon on your body in the state of Florida as of July 1st. In spite of the fact that Florida ranks number 3 in the country in mass shootings, our little Republican dictator governor just made it easier for more people who shouldn't have guns to be walking around with guns hidden on their body. This legislation, at one point or another, was opposed by the Republican Speaker of the Florida State House. It was opposed by the Republican President of the Senate. It's opposed by a majority of police officers in the state. It's opposed by a majority of gun owners in the state. And it's opposed by a staggering 71% of Florida residents. Everybody in the state said, "Holy crap, this is a horribly stupid idea." And in spite of those Republican objections from the Republican leadership in our state house, they all still voted for it. They said, "Well, I don't like it." The Senate president, again, a Republican, said, "I spoke to the law enforcement in the state. They hate it. It's going to make their jobs virtually impossible and put them in harm's way. They don't want it. But you know what? I'm going to vote for it anyway." That's what these idiots did. And Ron DeSantis signed it into law yesterday. It's done. Obviously, we know why this is scary. More guns equals more deaths. That is a fact. Look at the statistics. The more guns that are present, the more likely someone is to get shot. It's just a fact. But the real threat is what happens when our little dictator governor is no longer governor anymore. What happens if we actually get a reasonable state government sometime here in the state of Florida in the near future? They can't undo this. And I know you're thinking, yeah, they can. They can just pass a law to undo it. Sure, they could, but they won't. Once it's done, if you try to undo this, then those Republicans, the very same ones who say they oppose it, are going to come out and say they're trying to take your guns. So this is the way it is. Once you loosen those gun laws, it is almost impossible to tighten them back up again. Look at the assault weapons ban as a good example of that. Had it in place in this country for a decade, right? Everybody was fine that it was there. Once it expired, now that we talk about putting it back in place, Republicans are saying, "How dare you take away our guns? You can't do this. It's a violation of the Second Amendment." It's something we had in place for a decade. Worked out pretty well. So all we'd be doing is going back to the way the law was, back in prior to 2006. And it's the same with this. Once it's done, it's done. Got to the point last night where my wife actually asked me, she's like, "What are we going to do?" And let me be very clear, my wife does not lean left. My wife doesn't necessarily lean right. She is definitely right down the middle, doesn't pay attention to politics whatsoever. But when she saw this as a teacher here in the state of Florida, her immediate response was, "Where are we going to go?" She is at the point where she is telling me, "We have to leave. This state is going insane." And yes, it is insane when you can have a Republican Party that says, "We don't want this bill," but they pass it anyway to keep Ron DeSantis happy. A majority, 71% of the public says, "We don't want this bill," and DeSantis does it anyway. Police officers in the state of Florida, I thought Republicans were the blue, say, "We don't want it. You're going to get us killed." And DeSantis does it anyway. He is a dictator. And he wants to be dictator of America. Luckily, his campaign is flailing fast. That's good for America. Kind of sucks for us here in Florida because we got another 4 years of this little miniature tyrant.